Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, your home for all the latest Minnesota Lynx and WNBA news, analysis, and coverage. Thank you for tuning into another episode. I'm your host, Mitchell Hansen, and I don't know if the Lynx are going to lose a game. I'm just joking. But the Minnesota Lynx are off to obviously a red-hot start to the 2025 WNBA season. As I'm recording this podcast, the Lynx just came off fresh off of a win over the Dallas Wings, their third win over the Dallas Wings this year, but a win over the Dallas Wings on Sunday. What are we at? June 8th today. That improves Minnesota to 9-0 on the year. Obviously, still have yet to lose a game this year, along with the New York Liberty, sitting atop the WNBA standings. But it's been a remarkable start to the season. It's been a very impressive start to the season, even especially with Minnesota only having their full starting lineup for 3 games now. So it's an impressive start to the year. Minnesota still has yet to really play, I think, their best basketball of the year, and they're still 9-0. So it's a great start to the year. It's as I said, a very impressive start to the year, and it's setting up to be hopefully a finals return if they can keep playing like this and continue to get better throughout the year. But they're them in Minnesota and New York. By far, I believe are the best 2 teams in the WNBA right now, and I have a hard time seeing anybody slowing them down. But it's been a great start, and most of that, or the biggest, I shouldn't say most of that, but the biggest reason for Minnesota's hot start has been the MVP play of Napheesa Collier. Fee has been absolutely outstanding. In my eyes, she is the clear front runner for MVP as we sit here 9 games into the year. But she's been playing outstanding every single night, just continuously dropping impressive numbers. And as I said, you can tell she has a kind of a fire under her here to start the year. And I don't think there's anything that's going to be able to stop her, or anyone that's going to be able to stop her. So it's been a great start for both Fee and the rest of the Minnesota Lynx. But the rest of the WNBA, it's kind of been a up and down start with the exception of Minnesota and New York. But I shouldn't say up and down start, but just kind of a rocky beginning to the year for most of the teams. We saw a lot of teams start off hot and then they've cooled off, and vice versa. So it's been a fun year so far, but it's hard to believe we're already about a month into the regular season. And then we're gonna, before we know it, it'll be mid-July, and we'll be talking about All-Star break in the final half of the year. So it's been fun. It's been a good start to the year. It's obviously been a great start for the Minnesota Lynx to start the year, and looking forward to seeing it continue. But before we jump into the recording with our guest here this week, I just want to point out our Patreon page, or bring up our Patreon page. That is where you can get a lot of exclusive news and information, not only from myself, but Terry Horseman, who is the host of the Lynx Happy Hour podcast and writes for The Next. Terry's phenomenal. If you guys know Terry well, but if you aren't listening to his podcast, you're not listening to him, please go check all of his work out and his podcast out. He does a phenomenal job of covering the Lynx as well. But as I said, Patreon page, that's where you get a lot of exclusive news, information. You get bonus content that nobody else gets. You get all of the news that breaks around the WNBA, specifically with the Lynx. And you get that right in your inbox, and you get early podcasts, or early access to podcasts. You get early access to other things, such as our power rankings. And much more. But if you could, please check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/hitting the hardwood. And it's for just a small amount each month. You support Hitting the Hardwood, and you support the efforts of myself and Terry Horseman to continue to do what we do and to provide you this content. So thank you. If you can support in that way. If you can't, that's understandable. But if you can, please do patreon.com/hitting the hardwood. So with that said, let's jump into the podcast with our guest this week, or recording with the guest this week. And it's a debut. We haven't had too many of those recently, but we have a debut here of of our guest. And she was actually just on, as I mentioned, the Lynx Happy Hour podcast with Terry Horseman. She was just on with Terry Horseman a few episodes ago, I believe it was. But she does a great job of not only covering the Minnesota Lynx, but women's sports in Minnesota at large. And that is WCCO's Marielle Mohs. So I absolutely loved talking to her. I've been meaning to get her on the podcast for a while now. As I said, she does a great job of covering the entire women's landscape, and that includes the Minnesota Lynx and the WNBA. So it was a fun conversation with her. We talked about the WNBA so far, what she does covering women's sports, what it's like for her to cover women's sports, why she enjoys it so much, what she enjoys about covering the Lynx specifically. And then we dive into what we've seen taking place so far with the WNBA season, the Minnesota Lynx, and kind of look ahead to what could happen with this Minnesota Lynx team. So without further ado, let's jump right into the podcast with Marielle Mohs. Marielle, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's my off day, so I'm relaxed.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Do you do on your off days, do you do anything fun? Do you have any hobbies that you do outside of the day to day?
Well, a new hobby of mine is investing into like a veggie garden.
Okay.
So I've been growing my own vegetables
Okay.
this summer, and
Green
they're
thumb.
all, yeah, I'm trying to have a green thumb.
Hey, that's all that
Um,
matters.
yeah, nothing's ready to be picked yet, but everything's starting to grow, so it's exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for
Yeah.
you. Well, for people who are listening, Marielle Mohs from WCCO, appreciate you joining. It's I talked to you before this that or before we started recording that I've been wanting to get you on for a while, so I'm glad it finally worked out and we're able to get you on the podcast. So I appreciate you joining and taking some time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be
Yeah.
here.
Well, cool. Just if you could, just people should be familiar with you if they're listening. If you're not familiar with Marielle, please go follow her, watch her, listen to her, everything in between. But if you could just kind of explain who you are and what you do, just for some of the listeners that might not be as familiar.
Yeah, so I'm a sports reporter at WCCO TV. Been in that role for like 2.5 years now. Um, but I've been at WCCO for 6 years. I switched from news to sports, but really just doing the exact same job, just telling different types of stories. And it's been an absolute blast. This is my hometown. I grew up in Minneapolis, and it's been just the absolute thrill and privilege to cover the sports that I grew up watching as a
Mm.
kid.
Yeah, one of the things too that you have is it's been a little over a year, I think, that you've started the new digital series
Mhm.
in sports. Just kind of explain that a little bit and kind of what that's been like for you as well.
Yeah, so when I made the switch to sports at CCO, obviously Mike Max, a legend, has been there for nearly 30 years. And he just had such a tight hold on the pro teams in our state,
Mhm.
Vikings, Twins, Wild, um, Wolves, obviously, you name it. And I was trying to figure out where I fit into the puzzle of our sports department. And while I was assisting in some of that coverage, I knew that like it was covered very thoroughly already.
Mhm.
And so I said, okay, what are teams in our area that aren't getting the red carpet treatment? And I'm just going to go ahead and own those, like Maxi owns the Vikings. So I was just kind of looking at what was sort of being not discarded, but just not getting as much love. And the Lynx was the first one that came to mind. And then, um, honestly, competitive dance was completely getting forgotten by everyone.
Mhm.
And then I just noticed that a lot of just female sports in general weren't getting as much attention. Aurora, PWHL was just getting started as I was getting started in sports. So I was just like, I'm just going to go all in. And as a former athlete myself, it's been so fun. And I started this digital segment called WoMN In Sports, but women is spelled WOMN as a nod to the state
Love it. I
initials.
love it.
And it's a 8 to 15 minute segment every Friday where we just take all the local women in sports headlines and put it in one place. So if you really love covering, or if you really love getting all the updates from the big headlines to the small, we got them for you in one spot.
Sure. What's been kind of your favorite part of specifically that of covering women's sports? What has been your favorite part, or kind of what do you enjoy most about that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, first it's, I'm providing what I wish I would have seen myself when I was
Mhm.
in high school. I was a competitive dancer and I went to the state tournament every year, and I never saw any media coverage. And, I went to Benilde St. Margaret's, which is a really well known hockey school, and seeing the hockey boys state tournament coverage, well deserved.
Mhm.
And I love that event. I love seeing how many people show up for it. But I was just like, man, I wish, dance would just get a slice of that pie. And so for me, it's just rewarding to be able to provide what I wish I would have seen growing up. And the athletes are super responsive. Like,
Mhm.
even though I do think women's sports is getting way more attention and it's great to see, these young athletes thank me all the time for just being there. And I'm like,
Mhm.
man, it's the least I could do, just showing up.
Right.
So it's the, seeing my younger self, doing this for her, but then also just seeing the athletes who actually are that age being grateful too has
Mhm.
been the most rewarding part.
That's one thing, even specifically just with the WNBA that I've experienced that I haven't experienced anywhere else. Is it's that personal, like the personal level you get to know people at, or
Mm-hmm.
players, coaches, whatever it may be, but also they're appreciative, which is great. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's not, why you do it. That's not the reason you're not looking for
Right.
it, but having that is motivating from our side of things. And it's not something you get everywhere with every sport. It's not a knock on men's athletics, but that's not something you often get on that side. It's just kind of expected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is a very kind of satisfying thing, or rewarding, I guess I would say.
For sure.
Just kind of
And more
getting,
recently, I mean, I'm wearing my Frost sweatshirt right now.
heck yeah,
I got to cover the championship last weekend. Wait, how long ago was that now? Time runs together, but
yeah.
to cover that was so special because I have never witnessed a Minnesota sports championship in person before.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I was 1 year old when the Twins won. So, I mean, I've really never witnessed it. So for me, and then the Lynx, I was really young and not quite as much paying attention, or I was not even living in Minnesota at the time. So for me to just witness one in person was really emotional. Like, just to get that front row access to history is really cool.
Do you want to get your business in front of a passionate and dedicated fan base? Do you want to support the ever-growing landscape of women's sports? Hitting the Hardwood Network is here for you. We offer partnerships and sponsorships at various levels, including advertising on the Hitting the Hardwood and Lynx Happy Hour podcast, the Hitting the Hardwood newsletter, Patreon page, website, social media, and much more. If you want to partner or sponsor Hitting the Hardwood, please reach out to us at hittingthehardwood@gmail.com, and let's chat about how we can work together to support the ever-growing landscape of women's sports and help the game grow. I want to give a shout out to our current partners here at Hitting the Hardwood and those who help make Hitting the Hardwood happen. Thank you to Pentz Homes, Fantasy Sports Evo, Homage, and Better Edge for your continued partnership and your continued support of Hitting the Hardwood and Links Happy Hour, and your willingness to help make the game grow. Well, speaking of history, the Minnesota Lynx are off to a crazy good start,
Yeah.
impressive start. It's something we really haven't seen since 2017, not only record wise, but just what they've been able to do. Before we jump specifically into the Lynx, I kind of wanted to just kind of peel back a little bit and kind of hear your thoughts on what we've seen in the WNBA so far, just league wide, not necessarily specific teams, but just kind of overall, what has stood out to you, and what's been the early maybe surprises or things that stood out so far?
Yeah, I think for me, like the biggest surprises is just how much of an adjustment and growth period these teams that got a huge influx of rookies are having to go through in order to find success. I just assumed, with such a strong rookie class yet again, that some of these teams like Dallas, Seattle, would get just the Mystics
Hmm.
would see this like huge surge in like a turnover season of success, and they're not seeing that. Even with the number one draft pick on your team, like Paige Beckers, like you're not seeing wins, and that kind of just surprised me. But it just proves how the stronghold of the veterans, like it takes a while to just be in that fighting shape and that
Hmm.
fighting condition, because you're not just going to come off a national championship with UConn and be a star. Not that Paige hasn't done well, she's done extremely well, but it's just gelling into this new league. It clearly takes more time. It's not
Hmm.
an immediate thing.
Yeah. Well, even like Golden State too, just with now it was kind of expected, but just the new pieces all together.
Mm-hmm.
You could even say Las Vegas too, to some extent, with Jewel Lloyd and just kind of having
Mm-hmm.
they have to the new player on the team or players has to learn their way, but also it's the team that's existing too that has to try and learn their way, and that's something that a lot of, that's what everybody expected out of the Lynx last year.
Yeah.
That slow start, but not a lot of teams are able to do that. That's why it's so rare to see a team just kind of hit the ground running like that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I agree with you. It has been interesting to see that. I thought for
Mm-hmm.
sure Dallas would be a team that would just take an absolute leap.
Mm-hmm.
You can say Washington, like you mentioned, but um, it's also been I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but kind of a surprise just to see how good both New York and Minnesota look so far.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely front runners, and it's almost like that. I mean, was it maybe last year or 2 years ago where it was Las Vegas and New York? Like coming into the
Mm-hmm.
year, everyone's like, those are the two teams to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of feels similar to that this year with New York and Minnesota.
Yep.
But it's been fun to see. We'll see who can last the longest and not lose a game the longest. But they're putting,
Right. And like, that being said, like things can change so easily. Like the Lynx were dismissed so early on last year, and look at where they
Mhm,
ended up. So, and like chemistry can develop over time. So
mhm,
I'm holding my breath that some of these teams are gonna get it together and see a surge.
mhm.
I don't think it's gonna stay this cushy for the Liberty and the Lynx.
Right. I agree. I agree. Speaking of, or specifically with the Lynx, obviously we're recording this before the weekend game
Mm-hmm.
that the Lynx will be playing. They're sitting at 8-0 right now. But what has maybe stood out to you so far is from what we've seen with the Lynx, who have really only been a full team for a couple games. I mean, they haven't really been a full team, and they look impressive even without a full roster at full strength. But what stood out to you so far?
Yeah, I mean, that being said, like, starting off the season without K-Mac, and
Mhm,
then, Fee was injured for a game or two, at least for sure one game.
mhm,
And so, like, to see that their stars can be out and the resilience and the consistency remains, that to me is the most impressive insurance going into the long haul. Natisha Heidemann to me has been, I mean,
She's been great.
like she has been insane. And I saw that she was someone to watch last season. We were seeing like little glimpses of like her contributions to this team, but I mean, now she is just like I go into every game being like, okay, like what is she going to do today? Like
Right.
I have so much more confidence that she's going to contribute in a really big way each game, and she's really just, I love to see it. That's been
Mhm.
my biggest surprise of the season, but also like not so much of a surprise because in the preseason on media day, I was interviewing Coach Cheryl Reeve, and I said, "Who from the bench is someone to watch that you think fans shouldn't sleep on?" And she said Natisha Heidemann.
Okay.
And so she gave me that preamble that
Yeah.
she's one to watch, but man, was she right. She just
Yeah.
said that T has like the right headspace this season, and she's been getting really strong in the postseason. So yeah.
And
She wasn't wrong.
her and Courtney Williams' relationship is probably one of my favorite things that I did not expect to see this year.
What is their like live stream show? It's like
Isn't it Stud Buds or something like that?
Stud Buds.
Stud Bud, yeah.
Yes. I was dying watching that. Like that could have been like a straight up TV show that I just like
Yeah.
appointment television that I
Yep.
wanted to catch.
They need to do a like a 30 for 30 on them just to follow them around or like a behind the scenes documentary of those two because oh my
Yeah,
God, they are both very unique personalities, which is
a
it's fun.
100%. And
But
like I think that's why the Lynx, I saw it last year too, but like that's why I think they're so successful aside from their talent as players. Like the chemistry there is just unmatched. Like they're truly best friends.
yeah.
And you see it
Oh yeah.
displayed
Well,
right
and
there.
you get like I mean all of them on basically on the team. They talked about it last year, but now they have obviously some new faces are kind of mixed in with this team. But that was the reason why they started off so strong last year was that they were so close and they just had the right personalities. And I think that's one thing that Cheryl and the coaching staff has done a phenomenal job of over the years. I mean, you can even span back to the dynasty era that they find people that fit this team better than maybe what they can do on the court. And that in return improves everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
that goes a long way. It's something that's I think, overlooked a lot. You look at
Mm-hmm.
just talent and what they're able to do on the court and think it's just going to work, but not a lot of times it does. And if it does, it doesn't last throughout the playoffs. So that's something that championship teams are built around and built upon. And I think that's something that Minnesota definitely has, which and they're extremely deep. Oh my gosh. And I think
So deep.
that's why we, with the injuries, that's why they've been able to basically just kind of move along without skipping a beat is it's next person up. And that's
Yeah.
truly this team. They have three, four players on the bench that could probably start. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's a great deep roster, probably even deeper than maybe the talent on, at the top isn't as, talented as what the dynasty era was, but it's probably one of the, deepest teams that they've from well-balanced teams they've ever really had.
Yeah, I really like the contributions of Carly Samuelson and Jess Shepard this season
hmm
as well. Like they've been really good additions.
Right. And they're honestly I think they can get better. I mean, I think they can even
Mm-hmm.
contribute more, and we've seen that over the last couple of games. Even that you can just tell Carly Samuelson's getting more comfortable. Jess Shepard's trying to get not that she was out of shape. She's getting her feet back underneath her, just coming back to
Mm-hmm.
the WNBA, and yeah, it's and Bridget Carlton hasn't really even
Yeah,
been that phenomenal. I mean, not
right.
last year. So I mean, they are doing well and they're not even playing their best basketball, which is very scary. But like,
Very
good for
scary
Lynx
for their
fans, but scary for
opponents.
everybody else. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now that we're like, well, basically from the start of training camp, about a month and a half, 2 months in, what's been your favorite thing about this Lynx team so far? Whether it's, like we talked about the Courtney Williams, Natisha Heidemann relationship, maybe it's just
Mhm.
being around the team, the personalities with the coaches, players, whatever that may be, maybe something we've seen on the court. What's one thing that's been kind of your personal favorite thing you've seen?
Mm. Um, I mean, yeah, Stud Buds definitely is up there as a top, but I just I think the atmosphere inside Target Center has
Yeah.
been really awesome for me to witness. Just especially when I watch Lynx games on the road and I see just arenas in other cities that just aren't they just don't match the Lynx fan base here, and it really makes me proud to see our how much this city and this state has embraced this team and treats them like the wolves
Yeah.
truly and shows up and shows out. It's really cool for me to see. Like this is so personal, but my dad has been like going to Lynx games, and I'll like text him and I'll be like, "Hey, what are you up to tonight?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the Lynx game," and he just goes on his own, and it's just he's in his 70s, and it's just he's a brand new fan,
That's awesome.
but and I just to me like to see that change and to see new fans of any age joining this fan base is
Mhm.
really cool. I mean, we're going to go to the Sparks game on the 14th, the day before Father's Day, and that's how he wants to spend Father's Day with me. It's tickets going to the Lynx game.
That's really
So
cool.
to me, that's been like the coolest thing on a personal level, but just as on a team level, I am seeing Nafisa Collier on such a strong trajectory towards MVP, and
Hmm.
I am here for it. I am along for the ride. I mean, I saw last night that she um, leads the W in points
Hmm.
already, and I know it's still early, but I mean, there's a pretty decent gap between her and Kelsey Plum in second place.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
and then the mural of Fee that just got painted
Mhm.
in downtown, I'm like, I'm ready to see her win that title.
Yeah, it really does remind me of Maya Moore, to be honest. Like it
Mm-hmm.
not that I mean it's ironic that they both grew up in the same city. They both went to UConn, both play for the Lynx. Like it's kind of a ironic similarity, but they're also
Yeah.
like the way that the city has treated them is as a star is it reminds me of that. And I think this is obviously if she can continue what she's doing, she'll
Mm-hmm.
have a very strong case to be MVP. But if she does win it this year, I think she could be on the path of first of many, and hopefully that means a title as well. Uh,
Yeah.
but
I
and
forgot
she's
about
the
those
most
parallels with Maya Moore,
yeah,
like
yep, they're
the
both from
St.
Jefferson
Louis
City.
or Jefferson City. Yeah.
Jefferson City, and then they, Fee had talked about at Maya Moore's jersey retirement that like she modeled her game after Maya,
Mm.
and then they both ended up going to UConn, and then you get drafted by the Lynx, which is it's ironic, but
Yeah.
it it's crazy, and
That is
it's
crazy.
crazy that well, it's not so often that you see players from maybe the same school that were at the level that they both were at get drafted by the same WNBA team, let alone them being from the exact same city where they grew up too. I mean, it's so similar. It's kind of scary, but
Hmm.
and they're both extremely humble people. I mean, you
Oh my
find a more
God.
humble superstar than Nafisa Collier. She treats everybody the same, treats media the
Hmm.
same, she treats all of her teammates the same, like everybody. It's remarkable. And it's very rare to find that too.
100%. I think that's definitely been my favorite thing to witness with her. It's just her kindness and her humility.
Yeah.
It's so rare to see that
Yeah.
in a star like her.
Right. I agree. I agree. If there's one thing for the Lynx, if there's one thing missing from this team so far, what would you say that might be? Or I guess one thing that isn't as positive. For me personally, I'd say turnovers, just because turnovers have been
Hmm.
an issue all season long. But is there something
Hmm.
that has been missing? Maybe it's a performance of a player that hasn't lived up to it, or stats wise, anything like that.
Oh man. Um, Gosh, I feel like I'm just being like such a classic Minnesota optimist where I'm like, everything's great.
You're
But
not wrong though. Like it's really there really isn't much to pick apart. I mean, it
yeah,
really hasn't been that bad.
I guess I'd like to see, just because I know she has it in her. I think the two players I want to see more from this season uh, are Diamond Miller and Alyssa Peely. I
Hmm.
think, especially with Peely, I've just noticed from interviewing fans at games and um, just being around Target Center, people, especially like Indigenous people,
Yeah.
are so thankful that she's on this team. They champion her. So many people have her jersey. And so I just want her to get more minutes
Mhm.
and really utilize them
Yeah.
because I think the fans want that.
I agree. I do think with the other player you had mentioned, Diamond Miller, too, like this is, I hate to say it, I think it's a make or break season for her. It's
Mm-hmm.
in Minnesota specifically. She could find somewhere else, or, somewhere else beyond
Mm-hmm.
this. But I mean, what she, year three, four, whatever it may be, she hasn't stayed healthy, first of all. And then it's just kind of, she slid down the depth chart, which it's tough,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just kind of the brutal reality of things when you're not playing. But I do think that this is a big make or break year for her. You can
Agreed.
even throw Peely in there too, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's still kind of early for her. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think we need to see more of them. And
Hmm.
ultimately, what Cheryl has said since she arrived in Minnesota, basically, probably her entire coaching career, she said this, but you have to prove yourself in practice to get into a game. And the fact that they haven't been playing much kind of speaks volumes to me that they're not there yet. And
Yeah.
um, I don't know it because a lot of times Cheryl will play the matchups. She plays matchups and she'll play Natisha Heidemann 30 minutes one game and the next minute or next game she'll play 12 minutes just because
Hmm.
that's what the matchup results in. Jess Shepard's the exact same way.
Hmm.
But with Alyssa Peely and Diamond Miller, we haven't really seen them all that often. And
Yeah.
consistently, they've been playing low minutes. So I don't know. Hopefully they can get on the court a little bit more. We can see what they can do. But hopefully that means that there's a lot of blowouts, and then we can watch them play.
Yeah, exactly. That would be great. Like
Yeah.
a New York Sun, a Liberty Sun blowout, like we
Yeah.
just saw. Like
Yep.
that is insane to me
Yeah.
to be like to win by like over 50
Yeah.
points.
Oh my gosh, I know. That's insane.
Yeah.
For looking, not to go too far ahead because we're not even 10 games into the regular
Mhm.
season yet, but kind of looking ahead. We're gonna look towards the end of the year. What do you think by the end of the regular season, maybe the end of the postseason as well? What do you think that this season looks like for the Minnesota Lynx?
Yeah, I mean, I at this point, and I've already told like my managers because I went to New York last year for game 5. I was just like, yeah, get ready for Lynx in the finals again. Like
Hmm.
they're returning.
Yeah.
Um, as long as this team can stay relatively healthy, um, they're going to the finals,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It's just this team is so deep, this team is so talented, and they really don't have many holes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, you could throw the turnovers in there. I mean, defense, they still haven't been playing that great as what we saw last year defensively, but they figure those two things out, and I don't know if even New York can top them. I mean, it's they're a extremely tough team, and
Mm-hmm.
I do think I don't want to just say, New York, Minnesota just because they were the favorites coming into the year, but they're the top two, and then it's kind of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's not even close so far. So if
Yeah.
they look like this right now, just wait till they get to the end of the season because it'll only get better.
Correct.
But yeah, let's hope it maybe doesn't go well. Now this year would be 7, but maybe let's not do the full 7 games and come down to the end in like the final seconds. Unless
Yeah,
it's
that
the
would
other
be
way
great.
around this time, I'll like for us on the writing side and like the coverage side, let's just make it like a 10-point game in game
Yeah.
7 if that's the case. But
Yeah, and like let's also make sure. Well, we have no say in this, but please, I beg you, refs, just be consistent.
yes,
Like that was just such a stake through the heart to witness
yeah,
last year. So I just hope, like, with back to like 7 game series, and I just, you know, the fan base is even bigger than it was last year. Like,
right.
let's get the refing up to the level it should be.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Or we could just
Yeah.
get it done in 4 games and then just call it good, right? Just
Yep.
call it a sweep. Well, Marielle, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to do this again soon. This won't be the first and only. We'll touch base maybe later on in the season here.
Great. I look forward to it. Thanks so much, Mitchell. This is fun.
Thank you once again to Marielle. As a lot of you probably know her as, she goes by Elle and Marielle, but Marielle Mohs, she does like I said, a fantastic job of covering the women's landscape and kind of women's sports here in Minnesota. And she's just a great person to talk to, not even specifically about basketball, but just in general. And I appreciate her taking the time out of her busy schedule. I know summers are crazy for a lot of us, and I know especially when you're covering the WNBA, it can get kind of hectic here in the summer. So I appreciate her taking some time out of her busy schedule, and joining me on the podcast. With that said, I want to give a shout out to our partners here at Hitting the Hardwood. I really appreciate all of the partners in the sport that we've seen so far here at Hitting the Hardwood. If you or somebody you know wants to sponsor Hitting the Hardwood or partner with us, please send us an email at hittingthehardwood@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, go to the partners page. That is where you can find our sponsorship levels, and you can find out all of the information on there. If there's something in there, or there isn't something in there, specifically with pricing, if you have something else in mind, please reach out. We're pretty flexible with a lot of that, but let's chat. Let's see how we can work together and help promote your business, and also help support Hitting the Hardwood. But our partners that we do have here at Hitting the Hardwood, who have been great supporters of us all along, starting with our two headline partners or sponsors, that being Pentz Homes and Fantasy Sports Evo. Pentz Homes, Nate Pentz and the Pentz Homes team, they're awesome. If they're not, they should be your top choice, either with whether you're buying or selling your home, and they love to support you and your home ownership goals. So you can give them a call at 612-308-1122, or visit them at pentzhomes.com. Fantasy Sports Evo. Fantasy Sports Evo is a new way to play fantasy daily, or daily fantasy sports, excuse me. And it's a unique way where you don't bet on players, you don't add players to your lineup, your teams, but you bet on teams or as teams. You pick teams, not players. There we go. I finally got there. But if Fantasy Sports Evo is a very unique way. I've personally never, before kind of using Fantasy Sports Evo, I've never had a way of betting like that. It's very unique, and it's very fun. And the best part is if you go and sign up and you use the promo code Lynx, Lynx, you receive a 100% deposit match plus $10 in playable credits. So please go check them out. They're great. They've been supporters of Hitting the Hardwood for a few years now, and we really appreciate everything that they do to support us. Two other partners that we do have here are Better Edge and Homage. Better Edge is a Minneapolis-based sports betting company that is one of my favorite betting platforms that I use. And they're also just great people. They are great supporters of women's sports, women's basketball in general, or specifically, I should say, but women's sports in general. And they've been longtime supporters of Hitting the Hardwood. You can go visit them at betteredge.com, bettor edge.com. If you go and visit betteredge.com/links and use the promo code links, Lynx, you receive $20 when you put money down. So if that's enough to convince you, please do so, or please go check them out and support Better Edge because they support us, they support women's sports. So let's go support them. Homage is a vintage clothing site that offers a variety of merchandise, especially Minnesota Lynx and WNBA gear. If you go to our partners page, there are two hyperlinks in there. It says Lynx items and WNBA items. If you click on there and you buy something through that, there's no extra cost to you, no extra fees added to that, but a percentage of your purchase comes back and supports Hitting the Hardwood. So I appreciate Homage for supporting us since day one. And their website is HOMAGE.com. So with that said, we're already almost a fourth of the way through the WNBA season. I'm really excited about some guests that we have coming up here. I think you're really gonna enjoy the next few guests that I have, and they're one of them specifically is one of my all-time favorite players, and I've had her on the podcast a few times, but I'm really looking forward to having her on the podcast if our schedules do end up aligning. But I'm really excited for that one, and I'm excited to share it all with you guys. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the. I was going to say enjoy the start of the WNBA season, but we're not really at the starting point anymore. We're already a month in. But enjoy what we've seen, what we will see out of the WNBA season, out of the Minnesota Lynx. Enjoy this impressive start, historical start to the WNBA season for the Minnesota Lynx, and just enjoy basketball. Warm weather is here. We got basketball, and we're going to start seeing some great basketball here over the next couple weeks and in the coming months as well. So enjoy the nice weather, as I said. Enjoy your summer, however you spend it. Is a belated Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and Father's Day coming up. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there as well. And I hope you enjoy time with family and friends if you are spending it that way. But I also appreciate you listening. I appreciate your guys' support of Hitting the Hardwood, myself, Terry Horseman and his podcast, The Lynx Happy Hour, and also following along. But we couldn't do this without you. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in and all of your support, whether it's following our written content or audio content. So as I said, enjoy the rest of or enjoy the coming weeks and months of the WNBA season. And we will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.